Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today, I have some more of your questions for a segment of Ask Judy. Mickey Trahant asked this question. Judy, what was the shooting schedule like for the Waltons? How long did it take to shoot an episode? How long did it take to shoot the season? Did you get a new script every week? With 25 episodes per season, did you film continuously for 25 weeks straight? Okay, let's break this down. So we typically started filming sometime in May, towards the end of May for a season, because at that point in time, all the new shows would do start their seasons in September. So we would take a few breaks during the year, but not very long, and we would usually wrap up filming sometime, I would say, around January, February, because I know that when I was in public school, I would have to go back to public school for about 3 months. So if you figure we started towards the end of May, back that up, April, March, February. So sometime around February, we would be done for the season. So it was definitely more than 25 weeks. We shot 6.5 days per episode. So if we started on a Monday with an episode, we would finish that episode the following Tuesday at lunchtime. And then the next episode would start up Tuesday afternoon at lunchtime and would go until the following Thursday at lunchtime, or actually at the end of the day on the following week on Wednesday. So the next episode would start that Thursday morning and go for 6.5 days. We did not shoot on Saturday or Sunday. And then, how long did it take to shoot the season? 9 months. Did we get a new script every week? How far ahead of the shooting of an episode we got a script really depended on when the script was ready. So it might be a week before. I don't remember it being, for the actors, much more than a week before. Sometimes it was less than a week. Sometimes it was a day or two before. It just depended on what kind of rewrites were going on and how extensive they were. Because even once we got the script, we knew there would be rewrites. So we'd get a script, and we had that whole color-coded thing where if it was the first final draft, it would be white. But then if they made more changes, if they were they would be blue. So the first set of changes would be blue. If there was a lot of extensive changes, they might just give you a whole new blue script. So then that would be your new sort of final revised script. And it would have a date on it. And anytime there were revisions, they'd be in a different color if they were new revisions, and they would have a date on them. So you'd know which were the latest versions of a scene. So when you went to shoot that, so yeah, I'd get revisions, and either I or my mom, would have the revisions. She'd put them into my script, pull out the old pages, which for any of you who ever wrote letters, there were points in time where I would use those revised pages to reply to people. So you would get a page from a script for a scene that had been rewritten. So, because those would stack up, all those pages of this is gone, this is gone, this is gone. So that's kind of how that worked. And so, yeah, we'd get the script when we got it, and I'd read through it, or I'd usually flip through first of all to see how much work I had in that episode. Because if I was like, oh, I have a lot of scenes, then I'd know I better really take some time with this script. If I glanced through and went, oh, I'm like in 2 scenes, and I've got 3 lines, I'd go, okay, I don't need to rush here. And I'm not going to have to spend a lot of time learning these lines, because over the course of 6.5 days, I'm not going to work that many days. And if I have 1 or 2 lines, I'm not going to have to spend a lot of time memorizing those. But if it was really a Mary Ellen focused episode, then yeah, I would really read it, and I would work out making sure that I had the time I needed to prepare, not just with the lines, but what was going on with the story, and if there was anything in particular I felt I wanted to spend extra time researching or anything like that. So that's kind of how that went. So that's the overview of the season. This question is from Keanu Girl. And she actually asked me this a long time ago, and I thought I need to think about this. And I still don't have a full answer for you, but You've waited a long time, so I thought I would at least do an overview on it. Your question was, I know you directed in the past. If you had an unlimited budget, what movie or TV show would you like to direct? There's so much wonderful stuff that I have loved. And, things, there were times where I thought about different shows or the very first stage musical I ever saw was Camelot. And that's what inspired me to want to do musical theater. And there was a point in time, there was so much about that book and that musical, the story and everything that just captivated me. And I think there's a reason why that is. How often has that legend of Camelot been brought up in different circumstances? So there was a point in time even where I thought, it would be interesting to create a sequel to that story. And we don't know how authentic any of what was written. We don't really know the actual history. Was there really a King Arthur? Who was he? What were the circumstances? There were knights. Was there a round table? It's all kind of, I think, a degree of hypothetical and taking things that did happen that we know of and embellishing them. So I thought because of that, it wasn't as if you'd be tied to, the history says blah, blah, blah. You could create it. It could be like, based on the legend of, because it was just so heartbreaking to me that in a way, in that triangle, nobody won. Arthur, Guinevere, Lancelot, it just kind of, everybody lost. What Arthur won in the end was that he created a legend and a story, and that idea of legacy, that when you try to create something good, that it'll live on, that people will go tell about what we tried to do here and what it meant and how important that message was. But beyond that, I just thought I would have loved to have seen I'm a sucker for happy endings. I would have liked to have seen a happy ending in some way for those characters, as opposed to thinking, they all died. So something like that occurred to me, or just some of the shows. I love period shows and I love character-driven pieces. I loved like Downton Abbey. I love some of the murder mysteries and things that I don't think I'd feel comfortable shooting some really big action thing, with lots of car chases and big stunts and stuff like that. But about people, because that's what I know. Doing the Waltons, we told stories about people and the human experience and stuff like that. So to do something where it's not so much about being clever with the direction as not trying to do too much with it. Just let the actors, you cast wonderful actors, you let them talk, you let them tell the story and allow the camera to help support what they're doing, but you don't try to make it about what the camera's doing. When I talk about things that Ralph did in his direction, it was more how he enhanced the storytelling with his choice of camera work, as opposed to the camera being a distraction, which I find with some shows. It's like the camera's going, and I'm getting seasick. It's like, okay, let me see what's happening. And maybe in some cases that style helps tell the story. It's a chaotic story. It's people's worlds and minds are like that. But for me, that wouldn't necessarily be what I would choose to do. I'm, I guess, old-fashioned in that way. Because of some of the conversations I've had recently with other actors and talking about the value and importance of the arts and funding for the arts and arts in schools and theaters being able to continue to exist, and nearly losing Will Geer's theater in the fires and all kinds of things like that. I was just talking about the value of theater with Kelly Ward. There was a comment that Peace Shepherding had sent me some time back, and I saved it because I thought it was just beautiful about that. And so I just wanted to share it with all of you. She said, I wish all in theater arts, creating for stage or screen, including through technical services, could know they are touching people in basic human and lasting ways. These gifts also reach people in moments and periods of isolation and vulnerability. The conversation is so moving and appreciated. I love hearing the desires expressed to provide these enriching connections to audiences and to one's own children and colleagues. An Arthur Miller comment I most remember, I think in an interview on PBS with Charlie Rose, is that writers had to finally overcome their delusion that their writing would change the world. I think he's wrong. All of these arts do change the world, often vitally, though to expect that may be a hindrance to imaginative flow. Thank you both so much for caring and for doing the work to connect us. You help us feel our value and move us toward worlds of possibility. So thank you very much for your lovely comments. And I'm so happy I hear a lot of you speak about how various forms of art, whether it's music or film or television or dance or paintings or things like that, how much value they have in your life, your family's life, your children's life. And when we look back to times like the Waltons, these creative things were all we had. Those were our forms of entertainment, whether it was reading books that had been created by writers or poetry or sharing things like that, or creating a little play, or listening to the radio, and just all those types of things were things that did enrich our life and create inspiration and new ideas and things like that. So I really appreciate how much all of you also value what we and our colleagues do. Thank you for joining me for this segment of Ask Judy. If you enjoy these, please do hit like and subscribe. And I will see you next time for more behind the scenes of the Waltons and more Ask Judy. Thanks for watching.